I found a scared, desperate alien woman hiding in my mountain hut. Shocking, sensual moments. The mountain range of Cryos 4 was a desolate, frozen expanse, its jagged peaks piercing the icy clouds that perpetually shrouded the planet. Few dared to venture into its depths, but for Yarrick, a human survivalist and former explorer, it was a sanctuary. After years of navigating the chaos of the galaxy, he had retreated to a small, isolated hut nestled in the heart of the mountains. It was a simple life, but it was his. One stormy night, as the wind howled and snow battered the windows of his hut, Yarrick heard a faint noise outside. At first, he thought it was the wind, but the sound persisted, a soft, desperate knocking. He grabbed his plasma rifle and cautiously opened the door, his breath visible in the freezing air. There, huddled in the snow, was an alien woman. Her skin was a deep, iridescent blue, and her long, silver hair was matted with ice. She wore tattered clothing, and her luminous eyes were wide with fear. When she saw Yarrick, she flinched, as if expecting him to attack. "Please," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Help me." Yarrick hesitated, his instincts warring between caution and compassion. But the desperation in her eyes was undeniable. He lowered his rifle and stepped aside. "Come in," he said, "before you freeze to death." The woman staggered inside, her body shaking from the cold. Yarrick quickly closed the door and led her to the fire, wrapping her in a thick blanket. He handed her a cup of hot tea, which she accepted with trembling hands. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice gentle. "Lyria," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. I was running from them." "From who?" Yarrick asked, his brow furrowing. Lyria's eyes filled with tears. "The Syndicate," she said. "They captured me on my homeworld, and they were taking me to be sold. I managed to escape, but they're still out there. They'll find me." Jarrick's jaw tightened. The Syndicate was a notorious criminal organization, known for trafficking in slaves and illegal goods. He had encountered them before, and he knew how ruthless they could be. "You're safe here," he said firmly. "For now." Over the next few days, Yarrick tended to Lyria's wounds and helped her regain her strength. She was a Zephyrian, a species known for their grace and agility, but her body was frail from weeks of captivity and exposure. As she recovered, they began to talk, sharing stories of their lives. Yarrick learned that Lyria had been a dancer on her homeworld, her performances celebrated across the galaxy. But her fame had made her a target, and she had been kidnapped during a tour. Her spirit, however, remained unbroken, and Yarrick found himself drawn to her resilience and quiet strength. Lyria, in turn, learned about Jarrick's past, his years as an explorer, the friends he had lost, and the reasons he had chosen to live in isolation. She saw the pain in his eyes, but also the kindness that lay beneath his gruff exterior. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Lyria turned to Yarrick. "Why did you help me?" she asked. "You didn't have to." Yarrick shrugged, his gaze fixed on the flames. "I've seen enough suffering in this galaxy," he said. "If I can help someone, I will." Lyria smiled faintly, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she said softly, "for everything." As the days turned into weeks, their bond grew stronger. The harsh environment of Cryos forced them to rely on each other, and they found comfort in each other's company. But their peace was fragile, and the threat of the Syndicate loomed over them like a shadow. One night, as they prepared for bed, they heard the distant hum of an engine. Jarrick's heart sank as he peered out the window and saw a Syndicate ship descending into the valley below. "They found us," Lyria whispered, her voice filled with fear. Jarrick's mind raced. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but he couldn't let them take Lyria. He grabbed his rifle and turned to her. "Stay here," he said. "I'll handle this." Lyria shook her head, her eyes filled with determination. "No," she said. "I won't let you face them alone." Together, they devised a plan. Yarrick knew the terrain better than anyone, and he used it to their advantage. They set traps and ambushed the Syndicate soldiers, using the element of surprise to their benefit. The battle was fierce, but Yarrick and Lyria fought with everything they had. In the end, they emerged victorious, the Syndicate soldiers retreating into the night. But the victory came at a cost. Yarrick had been wounded, a deep gash across his side. Lyria helped him back to the hut, her hands trembling as she tended to his wounds. "You could have died," she said, her voice filled with emotion. Yarrick smiled weakly. "It was worth it," he said, "to keep you safe." Lyria's eyes filled with tears, and she leaned down, pressing her lips to his in a gentle, heartfelt kiss. Jarrick's heart raced as he kissed her back, the warmth of her touch melting away the pain and fear. In the days that followed, their relationship deepened. The danger they had faced together had forged a bond that neither could deny. They found solace in each other's arms, their love a beacon of light in the frozen wilderness. But they knew that their peace was temporary. The Syndicate would not give up so easily, and they needed to find a way to escape Cryos, for good. Using Jarrick's knowledge of the galaxy and Lyria's connections, they devised a plan to leave the planet and start a new life together. They repaired an old starship that Yarrick had salvaged years ago, naming it the Aurora's Grace. When the time came, they boarded the ship and set off into the stars, leaving behind the frozen mountains that had been their sanctuary. Their journey took them to a remote colony on the edge of the galaxy, a place where they could live in peace and anonymity. They built a new life together, their love growing stronger with each passing day. Yarrick opened a small repair shop, while Lyria taught dance to the colony's children, her performances once again bringing joy to those around her. One evening, as they stood on a hill overlooking the colony, Lyria turned to Yarrick. "Thank you," she said softly, "for giving me a second chance." Yarrick smiled, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "You've given me more than I ever could have imagined," he said. "You've shown me the true meaning of love and courage." Lyria reached out and took his hand, her touch warm and reassuring. "We are a family," she said, "and as long as we're together, we can face anything." As they stood there, hand in hand, watching the stars twinkle above, Lyria felt a sense of peace she had never known before. She had lost so much, but she had also found something precious, a love that transcended species and worlds, a bond that would endure for a lifetime. And in that moment, under the vast expanse of the galaxy, Lyria knew that she was home.